Welcome to the deep dive. We got an interesting one this time. A really in-depth questionnaire someone sent us.
Yeah, this one's a doozy.
It's like they're trying to figure out like what it means to be a man today. Everything from working out and snacks to like beliefs about God and what kind of shoes you wear.
It really does try to cover, well, everything. It's not just
Mm.
like surface level stuff either.
Right,
It's
right.
like they're trying to get at um, the values, motivations, even anxieties that men, experience.
So our mission, if you will, is to go through this massive questionnaire. I mean, it's over 110 questions.
Wow.
And really pull out the most interesting parts, the stuff that makes you think, huh, never thought about it that way.
Absolutely.
So one of the first things that really jumped out at me is how the questionnaire starts off talking about
Oh,
fitness.
yeah, big time.
It asks about, your overall fitness level, the type of training you do, and it even gets like really specific, like how much do you bench press?
It's like right out of the gate, there's this assumption that, physical strength, it's a key part of being a man.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, like, how much of that is kind of those old school ideas about masculinity versus what men, what we actually care about today.
Yeah, for sure. Like, is that still relevant?
Right.
And then it's like almost in the same breath, it goes from how much do you bench
Yeah.
to describe your style,
Yeah. Head to toe.
head to toe.
Everything.
Every
From your headgear and eyewear all the way down to your shoe game.
shoe game.
I was really surprised by how detailed it gets. I mean, it lists every clothing category you can think of, like innerwear, tank tops to outerwear, like coats, jackets, blazers, hoodies, sweaters. I mean, everything.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, how a man presents himself,
Yeah.
his style.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as important as how much he can lift.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Maybe it shows that there's like a growing awareness that, being a man, it isn't just about physical stuff.
Right.
It's also about, how you express yourself, how
Absolutely.
you present yourself to the world.
So speaking of presentation, let's move on to the section about relationships.
Oh, yeah.
This is where the questionnaire really gets into like the nitty-gritty,
For sure.
how men interact with other people. There are tons of questions about
Oh,
dating.
God.
Everything from, using social media and dating apps to whether you go in for the kiss on the first date.
Right.
They even ask about New Year's kisses at midnight.
Wow.
Like, have you ever had one?
It's like they're saying that dating and romantic success, it's a huge part of being a man.
Yeah, it's like how much you date and how successful you are at it. That's somehow like a measure of, being a man.
Right.
But then it goes beyond just, the first date, the initial encounter.
Right.
And it starts asking about things like heartbreak,
Right.
conflicts with friends over women, how you would react if your significant other was flirting with someone right in front of you.
Oof. That's a tough one.
That's a good one. I mean, I bet everyone has thought about that,
Oh, yeah.
but maybe not actually talked about it.
For sure. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's like maybe the questionnaire is trying to give men a space to think about these situations.
Maybe. Yeah. And
Mhm.
and how to handle them. Like what would you actually do?
Right, exactly.
There's also this one question that really stood out to me, and it asks whether your social and financial status is influenced by your partner.
I thought that was a really interesting one. Like, it seems to be getting at those deeper societal expectations about relationships,
Yeah.
and how they play into like a man's perceived success or status.
It's like, does a man's status like go up or down based on, how well known his partner is? Or how much money she makes? Whose perception are we even talking about?
Right, right.
Is it his own? Is it society's? Both.
It's a great question. And then from relationships, it totally shifts gears and asks, do you believe in God?
It's quite a transition.
And then it jumps right into questions about different kinds of intelligence, like linguistic, logical, mathematical, musical.
Wow. It's trying to expand our idea of, what it means to be masculine beyond those like typical traits we usually think of, right?
Yeah, totally. It's like it's saying that there's this mental and spiritual side to being a man, which you don't hear that talked about a lot.
Not as much. No.
And the question about God, it's really thought provoking. It's not just like a simple yes or no. It goes deeper and asks you to describe like God's characteristics.
Oh, wow.
And even like demonstrate God's existence in reality.
That's a tough one.
It really makes you wonder what kind of answers they were looking for.
Yeah, like theological arguments,
Yeah.
personal experiences, scientific evidence.
Right. It's really fascinating how it brings up this whole complex relationship between faith, personal identity, and how we see ourselves in the world.
It's kind of wild how it goes from those deep questions about faith and intelligence to like practical skills and everyday stuff.
Yeah.
Like he asks if you could operate a forklift or, if you have a favorite cologne.
It's quite the jump.
Right. It's like they're trying to capture the whole picture of a man's life.
Yeah.
The big ideas and the little everyday things.
Yeah, totally.
And even those kind of normal questions, you can find some deeper meanings there,
Oh, yeah.
like the cologne thing.
Oh, right.
It could be more than just like what smells good to you.
Right, right.
Maybe it's about how men present themselves.
Yeah.
The image they want to give off.
Yeah.
Or even like the messages they're sending with scent.
That's a good point. It makes you think about how even the smallest details can say something about who we are.
Exactly.
And speaking of revealing details, there are some questions in this section that touch on some pretty sensitive topics.
Oh yeah.
Like views on interracial dating, interfaith dating, and marriage. They even ask about, dating a single mom, fostering or adopting kids.
Those are some big topics. It seems like they want to understand not just what a man, wants for himself,
right,
but also his values and beliefs about family and relationships.
Definitely. It's pushing the boundaries of what you might expect in a questionnaire, which I think is a good thing. It gets people talking about things they might not otherwise.
Yeah, for sure.
And some of the questions, it's like they're meant to provoke a reaction. Like they ask if you think it's too late for a woman to get married if she's in her mid-30s or older.
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Makes you think about all those expectations around marriage and age,
Right.
especially for women.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting how one question can open up like a whole can of worms about society and our beliefs.
It really does.
And while it does get into some pretty serious stuff, it also knows how to lighten things up a bit,
Oh yeah, for sure.
It asks things like whether you prefer cute girls or hot girls, beach or mountain, even what your dream car is.
It's good to have a little fun too, right?
Right. It's a good reminder that even when we're talking about, big concepts like masculinity, there's still room for personal taste and just enjoying life.
Totally.
Those questions give you a little peek into like a man's individual desires,
And they can actually tell you a lot.
Yeah.
The dream car question.
Oh, yeah.
It can be about ambition, financial goals, maybe even a sense of adventure,
It's true. Sometimes those choices that seem superficial, they can actually reflect something deeper.
For sure.
Speaking of priorities, the questionnaire gets into finances too.
Oh, yeah.
It asks about your ability to handle money, whether you invest, stocks, cryptocurrency, even the most expensive thing you've ever bought an ex-girlfriend.
Wow. That's getting personal.
Right. But I guess it makes sense, right? It's getting at the idea that financial stability, security, that's an important part of, what it means to be a man.
Yeah, definitely. It's not just about making money. It's about, being responsible with it.
I also noticed a few questions about how men interact with other people. Like, are you someone who, really listens when someone's talking to you, or do you get distracted easily?
It's a simple question, but it says a lot,
Yeah, it's about the quality of our relationships. Like, are we really present when we're talking to people?
Right.
Or are we, off in our own world?
It's easy to forget about those little things, but they made a big difference in how we connect with others.
Absolutely. And then there are questions that get into like self-awareness and personal growth. Like, do you doubt yourself a lot?
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle criticism? Are you always trying to improve yourself?
It's like they're challenging us to look inward, you know, and think about our strengths and weaknesses.
It's saying that being a man isn't about, reaching some perfect state.
Right.
It's about constantly growing and learning.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. And it's not all serious introspection either. There are some fun challenges thrown in there too.
Oh, like what?
Like, can you tell a joke on the spot?
Oh, okay.
Can you sing a song?
I like it. It's about getting out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Exactly. It's a way to see, like, a man's sense of humor, his creativity, maybe even how comfortable he is with being a little vulnerable.
Totally.
There's also this kind of tech-savvy element to the questionnaire.
Which,
It asks about, how comfortable you are with the internet, how you get your news, and even if you own an analog watch.
the analog watch thing, that one stood out to me.
Me too.
It's almost like it's hinting at this tension between the digital world and the analog world.
Yeah. Like, are we holding on to the past or embracing the future?
Maybe it's about finding a balance.
Right.
And as we keep going through this, it's clear that this questionnaire is not just looking for simple answers.
Right.
It's starting conversations. It's making people think about what it means to be a man today.
In a world that's constantly changing.
So
It's like it's holding up this mirror to all the different sides of masculinity.
All its, complexities and contradictions.
And through that reflection, it's inviting men to really have a conversation about themselves, their relationships, and where they fit in society. One thing that really struck me as we were going through this is how it deals with, like, masculinity and vulnerability.
Oh, yeah.
It's not afraid to ask about fears, regrets, even how you find support when you're feeling down.
It's kind of refreshing to see that, It's like
Yeah.
it's pushing back against that idea that men should always be, tough and stoic.
Right, like, we're not supposed to have feelings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this questionnaire, it's like it's acknowledging that, everyone feels vulnerable sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It even asks, like, who you turn to for support, when you're feeling lonely or sad, outside of, like, your family and your partner.
That's a good one. It's important to have people you can rely on, right?
It really is. And it's saying that, asking for help, it's not weak.
No, not at all.
It's actually, it shows strength.
For sure. And this whole idea of strength through vulnerability, it comes up again when it asks about, difficult experiences, like heartbreak or conflict in relationships, dealing with difficult people. There's one scenario that really stood out to me. It asks, like, how would you react if your significant other was flirting with someone else?
Ooh, right in front of you.
Yeah, right in front of you at a restaurant.
Oh, man. Talk about a tough situation.
It's a good one, though. It makes you think, like, what would you actually do?
Right. In that moment with all those emotions.
Yeah. Would you confront them? Would you just walk away?
It's like a window into how you deal with conflict,
Exactly.
and how you handle, like, big, complicated feelings.
It's a good reminder that, life throws curveballs.
Oh, yeah.
And it's how we deal with those tough moments that really shapes us.
And I think this questionnaire, it's encouraging men to develop that emotional intelligence, to learn from their mistakes, to become more resilient.
It's saying that, personal growth, it's not a finish line. It's a process, right?
That's a journey. We're always growing, always changing. And while the questionnaire definitely gets deep and introspective,
Right.
it also brings in some humor, some lightheartedness along the way.
Yeah, which is good.
Like, it asks us about your favorite catchphrase or any new slang you've picked up.
Well,
Even if you have any hidden talents, like CPR training or martial arts skills.
it's fun to see that side of things.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that life isn't always super serious.
Right.
It's about having fun, trying new things, maybe even surprising yourself with what you can do.
Absolutely. And of course, you can't have a questionnaire without some of those classic get to know you questions.
Oh, yeah.
Like favorite snacks, how you like to travel, boxers, briefs, or commando.
Right. But those details, even though they seem kind of small,
Yeah.
they actually tell us a lot about a person.
They do.
They give you this glimpse into their everyday life,
It's like adding all those little brushstrokes to a painting to get the full picture.
Yeah, exactly. So after going through all of this, what would you say, like, what are the key takeaways about the modern man?
Well, I think it paints a picture of a man who's complex. He's got a lot of different sides to him. He cares about, his physical fitness, how he looks, but also his mind, his spirit.
Right.
He values relationships, wants to connect with people, but he also knows how important it is to be independent. He's ambitious, driven, but he's also, capable of being vulnerable, of looking inward.
It's like it's saying there's no one way to be a man.
Exactly. And this questionnaire with all those different questions, it reflects that.
Yeah.
It's encouraging men to embrace all those different parts of
To
themselves
challenge the old ways of thinking.
and to figure out,
Yeah.
what being a man means to them.
On their own terms. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this. What really stood out to you? What parts of this questionnaire made you think differently about what it means to be a man? This conversation, it goes way beyond any single set of questions. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.